Hello and welcome back to another We Interview video here on Gamingtrend.com. I am joined once again for the third time with Josh Looman, who works on the Madden franchise mode, my favorite mode of the game. We've talked about it for the past 3 years. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to show everything off to you guys. And, last couple interviews we had were awesome, so it's great to talk to you again.
I appreciate it. And so I just want to start here. Last year, you and I talked for quite a long time about franchise mode. We had 2 different interviews about franchise mode. There were a lot of changes, a lot of updates last year. This year, so many changes. But the one that I wanted to bring up is something that you and I actually personally talked about, and it's something that I think our viewers would be really excited to hear. When you guys say you listen to your community, your fan base, you actually do, because I literally see it from year to year now. And we talked about coach progression.
Yeah.
And the fact that as things go on and you start doing things and you start challenging yourself, sometimes the stats and sometimes the expectations change. But we've got whole new coaching stuff. So please tell us a little bit about how you can go into franchise mode and how your coach will work this year.
Yeah, we're completely changing the week-to-week metagame for coaches. We're not going to have a skill tree anymore. You'll unlock abilities, you'll earn XP, you'll level up along the way. And the focus now is on every single week based on my opponent, picking the right abilities, picking the right play sheets, and then taking advantage of my coordinators also. Like, they're going to have their own abilities and play sheets. They're going to level up, and using all of that to put together the right game plan based on the opponent along the way. So that was a big thing for us this year. It's looking at the totality of franchise mode, we don't just want it to be a mode where people feel like, I'm going to make some trades, play a couple games, get to the off season, there's not a whole lot else to do. We don't want that. So we want to make sure that there's a new metagame every single week, that you also don't have to wait like 3 seasons to unlock enough stuff to be able to use. So if I'm playing the Chiefs in week 1, I want to be able to walk in and say, I've got to put together a plan for the Chiefs, and I have the tools to do that.
I think that's phenomenal, and it shows the want and desire to make this fully immersive for your fan base, and especially the franchise community, which is so hardcore and has been so hardcore. You've been one of the players of franchise mode for years, so you understand. The other thing, and I've been able to see it a little bit in our preview so far, is the seeing the coaches give actual reasoning for the coaching suggestions. Some of us play, there are some days that I'll want to pick each individual play. There are some days that I'm like, okay, I will just give me the coach suggestions. I can figure it out. What made you guys want to move into an ability to showcase, okay, I have Dan Campbell, let's talk about grit. This is the gritty thing to do. Mike Tomlin, you gave an example. Mike Tomlin has Mike Tomlinisms. What drove you to go in that direction this year?
I think it's just, and this always drives us, but it's authenticity, right? And alongside that, we want to make sure that coaches are calling the real plays that they call based on historical data in real life. But we want to see their personality and their voice and actually have that drive what they're suggesting. So like the example you saw is like, Dan Campbell in the fourth quarter is going to go for it sometimes, but we want to explain to you why, and not just randomly have him do that sometimes. And you're sitting there playing the game going, why would someone do that at this point in the game? Now you have that context and you understand that's Dan Campbell and who he is. And we're using all this historical data to actually determine what he's going to do along the way, and we're communicating that to you.
So another cool thing that we talked about earlier is the amount of new plays that are coming in, but the playbooks. And what was the specific title that you guys used for the individual playbooks?
They're play sheets.
The play sheets.
Yep.
You used actually Mike McDaniel Fins Up as an example for it. What is that, and what can you explain a little bit about more for our audience?
Yeah. So the great thing about playbooks is that the gameplay team has done a lot of work on those to make those as authentic as they can for every single coach. We're taking it a step further just in franchise mode. So we're actually using this concept of play sheets. Think of them as like bite-sized playbooks that have a theme, and they can be used in your game plan every single week so that you can go in and say, all right, I'm facing a rookie quarterback this week. I still have my normal playbook, but let me grab this play sheet that has all blitzes in it. Let me bring that into this game. I'll find it in play call and be able to find just those plays. Let me call those blitzes in this game to put my game plan into play. And then when I leave this game, I don't have to pick that next week. I can pick something different. So it's little additional playbooks that are much smaller than the normal ones that get added alongside your playbooks. It doesn't replace it. It's just an extra additional playbook, little groups of plays that have a theme to them.
That's phenomenal. And another thing you brought up during the presentation was how much of this year's changes comes from data-driven analytics, seeing the blitz rate. You brought up the difference between the Brian Flores Vikings defense versus the Saints defense last year and how those are completely opposite. Tell us a little bit about maybe how the AI is driven to make it more immersive, to make it a little more difficult at times for our player base.
Yeah,
so it's not just a cakewalk.
You're right. We want the coaches that you face off against week by week, instead of just maybe every now and then you play a really good team that gives you a challenge. We want those coaches to be a challenge. So not only are they going to call plays like they have in real life in the past, they're also going to have their own AI that determines what decisions they make. They'll have their own realistic playbooks, but they are also going to game plan against you and bring in their own play sheets. So Minnesota will have play sheets that have heavy blitzes in them. They'll bring those into a game and actually run those against you instead of just using their normal playbook along the way. So all of those things combined together makes every single coach that you face feel completely different along the way.
And I think another great thing is, speaking of all of those things combined, is the brand new version of the weekly training and the weekly, setup. Gone is the old one where it's just the you're playing Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
How do you want to deal with Joe Burrow?
Yeah.
It is now, here's a list of different things, all again data driven based on what's going on. And I assume that will change as the season progresses. Those numbers will coincide with that.
Yeah.
But what really made you guys, the jump between the year before and last year was huge.
Yeah.
But this one is ginormous. What really drove you guys to push harder than even the year before?
We're just going big now. I said that this morning, but we understand, nobody's ever going to have to convince me about how important franchise mode is to Madden. I've said it before. I mentioned it this morning. To me, it's the soul of Madden. It encompasses everything we love about the game. So it's important that we're ambitious every single year. Last year was important that we pushed hard. This year we're pushing even harder, and we're not slowing down. We're going to keep going. So that's the goal. It's push as hard as possible. Add as many meaningful additions to the game as we can. Add that immersion, which we talked about last year. Keep delivering that, but also give you these new tools to manage your roster better, tools to prepare for every game differently, that kind of stuff. And, just try to figure out how to give you guys so much more so that every year franchise feels drastically different.
And last question for you. One of the biggest changes between last year and this year is how much the weather will impact every single week. You've said it earlier, we're going to have a weather forecast in the pre-game kind of stuff where we can say, it's going to snow this week. Maybe we need to ground and pound a little bit harder.
Yep.
How will that impact franchise mode, and how will that keep people playing for a long time?
Yeah, if you're playing in Miami or Jacksonville or Buffalo or Pittsburgh, yeah, I'm literally working on that right now, adding in those stories that you can see as you, when you advance the week, you're going to see in top stories, there's a blizzard coming in Buffalo. And you'll be able to know immediately what's going on. That is going to impact gameplay. So you'll be able to go in when you're setting up that game plan. You'll be able to determine how that makes sense and how you actually want to deal with that weather. And like you said, whether you want to ground and pound and focus on the inside run and ball control and that kind of thing, it'll help influence that along the way. But we're trying to make sure that all of the cities that you play in where you expect the weather, you're going to see it. We clearly looked at historical data, but we're also making sure that in Buffalo in January, probably a really good chance you're going to get heavy snow. Even if in real life the percentage is 30% of the time, we know they're piling snow off the field and stuff. We see it in pregame and that kind of stuff. So we want it to be fun. We want every game to feel different, and we want to prepare you beforehand, let you know what's going on. But it's going to be exciting when you go into that, monsoon that's going on in the game, and it'll feel very different from the week before.
Well, thank you so much, Josh. As always, a lot of
course.
information. You guys will be able to keep track of everything on gamingtrend.com, and we'll see you guys next time.